Welcome to the podcast to Let the Prophet Speak. Today we continue our study of Megillat Eichah, the book of Lamentations. Excuse me. We are in the middle of chapter 3, about to read verse 34. That is at the Hebrew letter of Lamed. So approximately halfway through this chapter. Remember, each verse is written in triplicate. There's 3 verses starting with each letter of the alphabet, and then the next 3 verses start with the next letter of the alphabet, and so on. So Yirmiyahu has just told us about the terrible suffering that he has gone through in his life to try to bring the message of God. And despite being stepped upon and abused and nobody listening to him, he still never gave up hope, because he remembers and always reminds himself, God does not want us to suffer, right? God will always, we can make things better. We need to turn around. We need to make this world better. We need to listen to this message and end this oppression, end this dishonesty, end this terrible regime based on violence, based on lies, based on fake news, so to speak, and no matter what, no matter how much we suffer, even if we're alone, we're the only ones trying to give this message. Still, never give up, because this is Yirmiyahu himself demonstrated this in his life. No matter how bad it got, no matter how difficult it was, no matter how alone his voice was in the wilderness, he always maintained hope. And the last verse which we read was, God does not want us to suffer. We're suffering because of what we do. So then he's saying, it isn't God lidakei tachas raglov kol asirei eretz. He's not the one who is crushing underneath his feet all of those who are prisoners in this land. In other words, aretz, in this world that we live in. It is us. It is human beings causing this suffering one to the other. So we can change. It's not coming from somewhere that we have no control. We as human beings do have control. We are the ones causing all of these prisoners to be stepped upon, to be abused, to be locked up. Whether it's literally within prisons or locked up in the chains of poverty, we can end these things if we cooperated and worked together. Lahatos mishpat gover, one of Yirmiyahu's primary themes. We are not the ones who are corrupting the justice when it comes to people's justice in the courts. We're not the ones that are bribing the judges, making laws to benefit one group over another. Neged pnei elyon, right? In the face of God. In other words, in the court of justice where we invoke God, we invoke all of these lofty ideas and these grandiose notions of justice before God, while we are being corrupt, issuing decisions that are meant to benefit one rather than the other, as opposed to administering real justice. La'aves adam berivo, to hurt a person in his disagreements over another. When 2 people come to court in a disagreement and we favor one over the other because of bribery, because he's somebody that we know, because he is a privileged person for some other reason, right? Adonai lo ra'ah. This is not God's making this choice, right? This is us doing this. We are the ones causing this oppression. What are the things Yirmiyahu is reminding us? What are the things that I want you to change? What are the messages meaning God? What are the things that God wants us to do different in order to avert this disaster? These are things that are in our control. That is why there's hope. Mize Amar Vatehi, right? Who is the one, right, who can make a decree and thus it will be, right? Adonai lo tziva, if God did not make that decree happen. Here he changes his tune a little after making his point that we have the control to change and stop oppression and stop dishonesty and stop bribery, and so on. He then says, ultimately, when push comes to shove, when it all boils down, right, who is the one who makes the commands and makes this universe go around? Who is the one who is all powerful? It is God. Human beings, we can fix. If there's bad people around, we can change it, right? But what allows us to make this these changes because we know that ultimately, when a push comes to shove, when it all boils down to everything in this world, it is God that has the control. And if God does not allow it to happen, if He's not the one who set the rules in motion in the world that we live in, then it would never be. Mi pi elyon lo teitze haraos v'hatov. Right, this is a verse that there's been some difficulty in translating this, because literally it means from the voice of God, it is not the good and the bad, right, that comes out, right? It is not God's commands and decrees. So there's several ways to read this, right? What's understood is that it is whether or not we are good and bad, right? That is not decreed by God. That is our choice. We have a choice. It's mipi elyon, right? The ra'os v'atov, whether or not we behave ourselves. This is a choice that we make, right? God decreed and made the world this way, like He just said in the last verse, such that it is our choice to be good or bad. We can make things better. This is why there's hope. Ma'is onein adam chai. What should a person who is alive complain about? Gever al chata'av, a man should complain about his own sins. If you want to complain, make yourself better. Stop kvetching and complaining that, oh no, everything is terrible in my life, when it's your own actions that made it happen. Don't look around you and complain about the corruption that's going on in the country and in the world around us, when it's we that made it happen this way. And we are the only ones that can fix it. We should look into our own ways and search them out. And then we can return all the way back to returning directly back to God. But by how do we do that? By fixing our ways, by fixing our actions, by fixing the way we live. Nisa levavenu el kapoyim. Let us raise our hearts in our own hands. With our own hands, our hands of action, we can raise our hearts el bashamayim, all the way back to the God in the heavens. Nachnu pashanu marinu. We are the ones that have sinned. We are the ones that have rebelled. Atalos olachta. All you, God, did was not forgive us. And why have you not forgiven us? Because we haven't done those actions that I told you should do. Sakosova af vatir devenu. You have surrounded yourself. A sakosa is like you enveloped yourself, right? Like a sukkah, which is a hut that covers you, that shades you. But you shaded, you cloaked yourself in anger and chased us, haragta, and you've killed, lo chamaltan, did not have mercy. Sakosa ve'anan lach, right? You have shaded yourself in a cloud so that we can't see you, we can't access you. Me'avor tefillah, right? So that our prayers don't penetrate through that cloud, don't reach you. We can't access you through our prayers. Remember, it's not prayers that God's looking for. It's action, right? It is Nisa levavenu el kapoyim. We have to raise our hearts with our hands, not with our prayers, right? Again, a very important theme from Yirmiyahu. Prayers aren't going to get you anywhere, right? They will only if they change you as a person. But if they don't change you, if you don't improve, praying is not going to do anything. You have made us like a garbage and disgusting in front of all the other nations. So here Yirmiyahu now flips from talking about himself, showing how he has suffered to bring this message to the people, showing how that despite his suffering, he has maintained hope. Telling the people that there is hope because in this world that God created, He allowed us to change things. It is us that needs to change, and we can change it. It is in our hands to change, right? So now He looks and says, right now he's including Himself in the people, and He's talking about we as a people, the people of Yehuda, the people of Israel, right? Patzu aleinu piem kol oivenu. All of our enemies have started to make fun of us and mock us, right, and scream about us. Pachad v'fachas chayalanu. We have fear and panic and we just terribly scared. Hayalanu. That is our lot now. Hashes v'hashaver. Which all we have is destruction and death. Palge mayim terad eini. My eyes are crying and crying over this terrible suffering that we as a people are going through, al shever basami, because of the brokenness and the loss and the ruin of my beautiful nation. Eini nigra, my eyes are pouring, velotidme, they won't stop pouring from tears. Me'ein hafugos, there is no rest, they don't stop. There is no dam in the water of my tears to stop the flow. Ad yashkif v'yera Adonai mishamayim, and I'm crying until I hope that God will look. Right, this is a reference back to the Torah where it says Hashkifa, God look upon us, think about us, remember us, and save us. Until God sees us from heaven and finally stops the suffering. Eini olol nafshi mikol benos iri. My eyes have made, in other words, what I see, the suffering that I see around me. Right now he's talking about the suffering that he sees in his prophetic visions of the destruction that's coming. My eyes have made my soul tear in pain, mikol benos iri, because of all of the daughters, in other words, all of the wonderful people of my town, my city, it's being destroyed. Tzod tzaduni katzipor oivai chiyam. My enemies have captured me like a bird for nothing, right? It was easy for them. They just captured me like a bird. Tzamtzu vabor chayoi. They completed, they ended my life in a pit. Vayadu even bi, and they threw stones at me. Tzafu mayim al roshi amarti nigzarti. They poured water on my heads. And I said, nigzarti, I am ruined, I am lost. Karasi shimcha Adonai mibar tachtios. And from this pit, I called out to you, God. Koli shamata. God, listen to my prayer. Al talem oznechol rav chasdi l'shav chasri. Don't close your ears to my cries and my moaning and my beseeching. Koravta biyom ekra'eka. You have drawn close to me when I called out to you, right? Remember, this Yirmiyahu goes through this process now for the second time. In the first half of this chapter, in the last podcast, we showed how he goes through all the suffering. But then, when he realizes the importance of his mission, when he realizes that he is fortunate to be the one that sees the truth and that has this incredibly important task to fulfill, and that there is hope, he can change, he's never going to give up. And then all of a sudden he cries out to God, and now he feels it. Amarta altira, you told me, do not be afraid, because ultimately that is what God told Yirmiyahu. Right? If you remember from the beginning of the book of Jeremiah, God tells him, don't be afraid. I know you're going to suffer. People are going to throw you in a pit. They are going to make fun of you. They are going to drop water and rocks on you, and they are going to not listen to you. They are going to ignore you, etc. They are going to exile you. But don't be afraid, because I will be with you. They will not take your life away. You will be able to continue on your mission. God, you have fought my fight, the fight of my soul. You have redeemed my life. Imagine, what is Yirmiyahu saying? What do you mean redeemed my life? His life was miserable. His life was absolutely miserable. But it was redeemed because he had a life of meaning. He realizes through his humility how fortunate he is to be Yirmiyahu, to be Jeremiah, someone whose words we still read today, and you and I are reading together today. Ra'isi Adonai Abasasi. God, you have seen the how this twisted wrong that has been done against me. Shafta mishpati. You have judged my judgment, because I'm still here. As we know, Yirmiyahu ended up surviving the ultimate destruction. His life continued. He led the people after the destruction. He led the people even after they left and went down to Egypt to escape the next destruction, and so on and so forth. He made it through the whole time, and we still read and are inspired by his words. His message still carries so much meaning to this day in 2025 when I'm recording this podcast. Ra'isa kolnik masam kol machshavosam li. You have seen all of their desire for vengeance. Remember, Yirmiyahu, who flipped from the first half when he was talking mostly about his own mission, now he flipped to talking about his suffering among the people and the suffering that he sees among the people of Jerusalem, right? And he's doing that again here. You have seen how they try to take vengeance, kol machshavosam li, how they're constantly thinking about taking vengeance against me. So here it's his person, but his also the suffering that he sees hit the people, his city, his town suffering from their enemies around them. Shamato cherpasam Adonai. Kol machshavosam alai. You've heard how they make fun. You have heard how they're constantly thinking about me. They're constantly thinking about my suffering, our suffering, the people's suffering. Sifsei kamai v'hegyonam, the lips of those that stand up against me, and their thoughts and their plans are constantly against me. They're constantly all day thinking about me. Shivtam v'kimasam habita. See how they sit and how they get up, right? And and how they're living as if everything is fine and everything is great. Ani manginasam, while I'm the ones that they are making fun of, while I'm the ones that they are embarrassing and shaming. Tashiv lahem gimul. It seems pretty clear that here now that he's included himself among the people, he's referring now to me himself as among the people suffering from those that are surrounding them. Remember when he talked about how the people of Jerusalem, the people of Judah, the people of Israel are suffering so much from the taunts of the surrounding nations as the destruction was occurring. Tashiv lahem gemul Adonai k'masei yedehem. God, give them that which they deserve according to their deeds. Look at their terrible deeds. May they suffer one day for their deeds. Titein lahem miginas leiv ta'aloscha lahem. Give them the suffering of the heart, right? Your worry, your ta'ala, your curse, right, should be upon them. Tirdof ba'afis ashmideim. Chase them with anger and destroy them mitachas shmei Adonai, from beneath the heavens of God. This is the end of a powerful chapter 3. Yirmiyahu ends with it is a little difficult reading what is clearly a desire for vengeance against the enemy. It's obviously understandable when he's seeing in his prophecy, he's seeing the terrible destruction being wrought upon the people. But the main thing that bothers him is their attitude of abuse, their attitude of arrogance and pride. So tashiv lahem gimol, give them what they deserve, k'masei yedayim, based on the actions that they do. Yirmiyahu hoping that one day such oppressors, such people that act with that kind of arrogance, that have no humility in their hearts at all, should suffer their just deserts. This concludes again chapter 3. Thank you so much for studying with me. Looking forward to studying chapter 4. Oh, I guess sort of looking forward. It's not really fun studying this book, but it is extremely moving and extremely important for us to go through this process as we study through the prophets together. Thank you so much for participating. Wishing everyone a wonderful, wonderful day.